All right, today we're cracking open a sealed file from the deepest Imperial archives, one designated Omega Obscurus. It details a crisis so unique it's barely understood, known only as the Superman Incursion. And let me tell you, this wasn't a war. It was something way, way more dangerous. So the whole thing hinges on this one absolutely mind-bending question. How could a being of immense power, a being with nothing but noble intentions, be classified as an existential threat to the entire galaxy? So, let's start at the beginning, how this thing showed up. It wasn't an invasion, not in any way we'd recognize. It just appeared. And it completely sidestepped every single one of our threat detectors. The official logs, they just call it a hesitation in reality. I mean, how wild is that? And just look at this chart. The standard threat indicators? All negative. No warp signature, no psychic echo, nothing. The entity registered as a complete blank across every single Imperial sensor. This wasn't someone being sneaky. No. This was something that was fundamentally incompatible with the very laws of our universe. And that led to its official classification, which is a mouthful, but it's so important, an ontological anomaly. See, the Imperium figured out they weren't facing a physical enemy. This was a conceptual one. The threat wasn't about what this being did, but what it was. Now, a threat like that, a conceptual one, it immediately throws one of the Imperium's biggest players into a total crisis, the Adeptus Mechanicus. Yeah, their whole perfection is heresy thing was about to get a serious reality check.
An internal analysis from the Mechanicus puts it perfectly. Think about it. Their whole religion is built on the idea that things break down, that you need rituals and maintenance to fight decay. But this thing, it just didn't. It was perfect.
And that's the real problem, right? The entity's very existence basically threatened to make the entire cult Mechanicus obsolete. I mean, if a biological machine can be perfect without any of their rituals, without any worship, then what's the point of the machine god? What's the point of the priesthood? It was an existential threat to their very power. But the destabilization did not stop there. Its very presence started to eat away at the foundations of the other major players in the galaxy, specifically the orcs and the forces of chaos. Okay, so take an orc war. What does the Imperium do? They throw bodies at it. Attrition. They feed the greenskins' belief in a good fight. But this entity, it did the exact opposite. It dismantled their war machines with impossible precision and just refused to fight back. It starved the war of violence, and the whole thing just fizzled out. And that proves something terrifying. You could win without endless slaughter. A concept that completely undermines the Imperium's entire military doctrine. And it's the same story with chaos. You know the drill. The ecclesiarchy tells everyone only faith in the emperor can protect your soul. Well, this being wasn't protected by faith. It was protected by this kind of internal clarity, a total null state. There was no fear, no rage, no temptation for the ruinous powers to even grab onto. It didn't fight the warp. It just left it unfed. And just like that, the church's monopoly on spiritual defense, poof, gone. So all of this, the Mechanicus, the orcs, chaos, it all boils down to the one threat the Inquisition saw as the most dangerous of them all. Hope. Yeah, hope. This entity brought with it the simple, completely world-breaking idea that maybe there's a better way. And that idea, it's a contagion. One that threatened to just dissolve the brutal, grim discipline holding the entire Imperium together. So what do? You're faced with an enemy you can't fight, you can't corrupt, and you sure as heck can't control. Well, the Imperium fell back on its classic playbook for this kind of problem. It shifted the battlefield from guns and ships to ideas. The plan was brilliant. Really, 2 phases. First, they tried to co-opt the narrative. Rebrand this thing as a living saint. That failed. Big time. It just refused to be worshipped or controlled. So they moved on to phase 2, a desperate but absolutely genius gambit to get the entity to leave on its own. They brought it to Terra itself. But not for a fight. No, they brought it there to show it something. The ugly truth at the heart of the Imperium. They showed it the Golden Throne and the reality of the Emperor. Not some shining god, but a dying man strapped to a corpse engine, kept alive only by the daily horrific sacrifice of 1,000 souls. And right there, that was the checkmate. The Inquisition laid out the ultimate unsolvable paradox. They basically said, go on, save us.
To tear down this brutal imperium means snuffing out the Astronomicon, unleashing chaos and damning humanity. The only way to really save everyone is to take over, to manage this nightmare, to become a tyrant yourself, just one with good intentions. And that masterstroke of psychological warfare is what finally ended the incursion. The entity was finally face to face with a truth it couldn't fix. Its own noble ideals were a luxury that this galaxy simply could not afford.
And get this, the entity was never defeated. It wasn't beaten in a fight. It chose to leave. It just withdrew, voluntarily. It left a reality that was so fundamentally broken, so incompatible with its very nature, a universe where hope itself was a liability.
And in the aftermath, the Imperium moved fast, a swift, absolutely ruthless ideological quarantine. First, every single record purged, gone. Next, the event was reclassified. It's now officially known as an ontological contamination. And this is the real kicker. The very concept of hope was officially designated a contaminant, an ideological hazard to the survival of mankind.
Which leaves us with this final chilling thought from the archives. It's a grim reminder, isn't it, that in a galaxy built on such a brutal survival at all costs calculus, some heroes, they're just a luxury reality can't afford. It really makes you wonder, what's the true cost of a hero in a universe like this?